Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we continue, and what I want us to do is finish up with our courses, adding information to the courses, because I want us to deal with the courses view page so that when you actually click on a course, you actually play the list of videos that are there. Now we can only do that if we have added those videos there. So that means we have to fix what we have here. So if I click on my courses and let's say I select this course right now, if I go to course landing page, everything is good except for the course video here. We didn't finish with this, but I'll skip this a little bit. Let's go to another tab instead. Let's deal with the intended learners tab, finish up here, then we can come back to that because this is pretty much done. Now, in comparison with actual Udemy, this is what intended learners has. So it's got this thing here where, as you can see, I can delete. This is one of these. I can delete one of these, or I can move it around up and down as I wish, depending on which one I want to come first, like this. Then I can add more if I need to. So if I come to this one, type something here, then I can click add more to your response, and then it adds a new input right here. Okay. So I want us to create a situation like this because most of these are pretty much exactly like that. That way we can utilize this and redo the process over and over again here. So now the thing is, if we go to, let me go to my table here. This is the courses table. Now courses table has all this information that needs to be there, but the problem with this kind of information is it's dynamic in that we don't know the number of this one. The question is, what will students learn in this course? So a person can have one of these or 10 of these. We don't really know the number. So this is why we cannot put this in the same table as the course, because it means we can't know how many columns we need to add, because we can say, okay, maybe let's add 10 columns and hope that people will not go beyond 10. If you know the limit that you can add here, then you can put columns in the same table. But in our case, we don't want to limit it. Somebody should be able to put 10 or 20 of these, and they should still be related to the same course. So in this case, this is a one-to-many relationship. So we have to create a new table to do that. Now the thing is, here we have what will students learn in this course. Then we have another one here that says, what are the prerequisites here before you take this course? Also here we can add more of these like that. Okay. And what we can do, this is entirely up to you. We can create one table to store this information, what will students learn, and then create another table to store this information, prerequisites, and then create another table to store who is this course for. Now, that would make quite a number of tables, but we can do a little trick to use only one table to do this. So we generalize this. So what you have to ask yourself is, what information do I need to store in that new table in order for me to identify that this information I'm adding belongs to a particular course and save the information properly? So we're going to go to our text editor here. So let's think about this here. So we have the course table, right? Now we want to create another table. We're going to call it course meta, because this is some additional information about courses. So this one is courses. courses meta. So a course here has an ID, right, that identifies the course itself. So let's come here and see that. So we have that ID. Maybe we have another ID. Let's see, do we have a something else that identifies this course? Okay, so it seems we don't have, I thought we had a slug here for a moment. Don't we have a slug? Okay, apparently not. All right, that's not a problem. For now, we can deal with the ID. So the ID identifies this course. So what we need to do here in courses meta is to definitely have a course ID like that. That way we know that a course ID column, that way we know that whatever information is in that row belongs to a specific course, right? And then to generalize things, because usually we would have a key and then we would have a value pair like this. Because let's come back here a second. So this thing has a key and a value. So the key here is what will students learn, and the value is this. Okay, so we can repeat this key and put many values with the same key. So it's not a primary key, it's just an identifier that this information belongs to this question, and then put those there. So that's what we're going to do. So you can call it key or you can call it type. Maybe that explains it better. So we'll call it type and then value. So here we'll save the course ID, the information type, and then its value. Then we'll need a disabled like that, just so if we delete the thing, we can simply disable it instead of deleting. Now, let me explain a little bit about that. So the problem here we have is this. Courses has an ID, right? This one also will have an ID column like this because we require primary key. Now the issue is this. Let's imagine we have information, right? And the information is who is this course for? Okay, so let's say this is the key, and then we save this. So we have one record, the ID is going to be 1, okay, and then there's a course ID to identify which course this information is for, quite right. But then the type, we're going to put who is this course for and put it there, and then put one value there. Then we're going to repeat this information for all of these items here. Repeat, 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 so that we have 3 or 4 rows in the database that contains this information. Now imagine I come back to edit this information, right? And then I decide, I don't want any of these, and then I delete some of these. Maybe I delete these two in between, like this one and that one. Now this is going to present a problem, because if I go back to save this information, maybe not a problem yet. Let's imagine this one has an ID of 1, 2, 3, 4 in the database, right? And then we use those IDs to identify these guys. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 in sequence. Now if I delete 1, 2, then now what I have is information for ID number 1 and then ID number 4. Okay, so that's not a problem, because all we have to do is save this information and then disable these two, and then we have this one and that one. So no problem there. We can update ID number 1 and then ID number 4. But then the problem comes in. Let's say now I edit again. Now this time I add 10 more columns and delete these. I just come here and delete all of these that are here, and then instead I add 10 more columns. So now what happens is that all those IDs that I had all added before are now non-existent, because I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but what I'm trying to say is that we cannot tie these guys to IDs alone. So we can't do that. So we'll have to, what we need to do is every time we update the database, we have to remove everything in the database that pertains to this and then store this information as if we're just typing it afresh from scratch. Now the problem is with deleting things in the database is that we have indices in the database. We have an index here like ID, which is 1, 2, 3. All these things are in sequence. Now the problem comes in if I keep deleting things here, which means the IDs will no longer be in sequence, and that can cause problems in the long run, especially if your database grows quite huge. If your database is very big, let's say it's got 1,000 records, and then you delete maybe 100 records in between, then those IDs need to update. It's not such a big deal if your table is small, but if it becomes really big, then you have problems. Your indices won't work as well as they should. So then you have problems in speed. So instead, what I do personally with my own applications is that instead of deleting anything, so I don't delete anything, I just use the word disabled to disable things so that I know that column is disabled and we shouldn't read from it. And then what I do is every time I save, I go through, I disable all the records that are already there, first of all, and then go through those that are disabled, enable them, and then change the data there. And then once I run out of those old records, if there's more records to be saved, then I continue to insert new records. Anyway, we're going to see how that works instead of me just explaining. So let's create this table rather quickly and get on it. So it's going to be courses meta. This one is courses. Let's create a new table. And I'm going to call this one courses underscore meta, like this. Let's put an ID. I think once we do this, you're going to understand what we are doing a bit better. And then let's do course ID here, which will marry the data to the course. And then we'll do data type. So maybe I can call this one data type, like that, and then value. So the value of the data type, course ID and ID. Let's add one more column for disabled. That's way we can disable the column if we don't need it. This one is tiny int with a length of 1, default value 0. That way disabled equals to 0 means it's not disabled. Variable character is for the actual text that will be saved here. I'm not sure how long this data will be, but let's put 1024. 1024 should be enough for most data types, especially that we know this is just one line text like this. So 255 would have done just fine, but just to be safe. And then we have the data type. Now data type, we should limit the data type to 100 so that we can add a key there. Variable character. These two will remain as int. So let's make sure that we have auto increment here, primary key, and then let's save. So save there. Great. Let's add an ID for disabled. Let's also add an ID for data type because we're going to be using those two for reading the data. Also, the course ID should have a key. So there we go. Great, so far so good. Now let's try and we will try and insert some metadata here. But before we do that, I want us to create our UI which does exactly this. So I want us to be able to delete some stuff, like here if I click, I can delete. Can't delete this one, why not? I do not understand why I cannot delete. Okay. Okay, maybe we've reached the minimum allowed amount, I guess. That's why we can't delete, I guess so. Okay, so I want us to be able to do this, what we are doing here. So let's create a UI that will do that. So this is all good. We are done with this. We got the information we wanted. But now what I want to do is go to controllers, no, not controllers, views. Actually, it is controllers and course. All right. So in here, what's happening? Wait a minute. Admin, it's in the admin section. Courses, yes, right there. So I'm looking for that part which loads a particular content. So here we have, I'm looking for, let's see, upload course. This is not it. Yes, this one right here. Okay, so course landing page, course messages. We want to add one more here that will load what we want. So let me just duplicate this from the else up to here, Control Shift D, and then I will change one of these to the one I want. So instead of course messages, this is one is intended learners, like that. So let's copy this and put it right there, like so. Then now we can create the file. So we include the file using the views path like this. So it's in course edit tabs, which is right here. This is where all the tabs are. And this one is for messages. This one is for, okay, great. So now what I want is to grab this one. Let's copy what's here and then we can change it. Just create a new one, new file, paste, save this, and this one is going to be intended learners. Oops. Intended learners dot view dot php. Okay, so just so we know we're on the right page, intended learners. So back here, let's see if we will be able to read that. So let me refresh, and there we go. So just like that, it was able to load this intended learners. But what we want is this system here. So let's see, what will students learn in your course? So let's put that. You must enter at least 4 learning objectives that learners can expect to achieve. So what I would do is, let me just copy this for our own situation here. Let me paste that. Okay, let me copy this subtext as well, so that if you want to do that, you can do that as well. Let's use the small text, small tag there, so that it reduces the size of the text. So let's see what's going on. Refresh, and there we go. So what will students learn in your course? And then blah, blah, blah. Yeah, now the things are saved like this is because of, this is a row, right? Okay, so this is not really what I need. So let me remove the row here. Oh, this had a column there. Okay, maybe that's not what I should have changed. Let me just do column 12 here, same as here, so that the label goes all the way. Okay, so what will students learn in your course? Blah, blah, blah. And then let's put that as well. So here this one has 10, let's just move it to 12. And then text area, instead of text area, let's change this to a div. Oh, sorry, an input. Okay, there we go. Type text. Let's go to class and form control. This should do. Then we can leave the error messaging here. We can use that later. So let's see that refresh again. All right, so we have this there and that. Okay, cool. So let me remove this one at the bottom here. We can always just duplicate what we have at the top. But what I want here in this situation is to add a button. So let's add a button, shall we? And let's do add more there. Okay, maybe let's put a plus sign, add more. Okay, there we go. Let's put a few classes here, button and button primary. Okay, all right, so add more. If I click here, it should add more of these. Now it refreshes instead, so I should change this type to button so it doesn't refresh the page, because once we are inside a form, then we will have a refresh going on there, but now it doesn't. Okay, cool. So what I want instead is to add and then add this. Now let's see what text it has. Example, define the roles of responsibility. Okay, we're just going to inspect this and copy the text. Now you can write any text you want in here, of course. This is not mandatory by any means. I'm looking for the placeholder right here. Okay, all right, let's close that and let's put our placeholder. Where are we? Right here, placeholder. There we go. Okay, so back to ours, and there we go. So added. What else are we missing? Okay, so here there's delete and some stuff to move things around. So if we go to Bootstrap icons, because this thing is using Bootstrap icons, I know this because if I right click here and inspect, I'll find that the icons are BI, which is Bootstrap. So what I want is the trash can. So it's trash. Okay, great. Then there's bars, I think. Let's see, 3 bars. Oh, let me type menu instead. Actually, let's look at arrows. I want the arrows. I don't want us to use drag and drop. We can do drag and drop. It's not very difficult, but it will take us longer to code that. So instead what I'll do is I'll put arrows up and down so you can click the thing to move up and so on. Okay. That would be much cleaner instead of drag and drop. I'm looking for an arrow that I can use for, okay, so this one I like, but let's look at the one that's going upward. So caret up view, that's the one. Okay, so what I want to do now is on the input here, let me put this inside a div. Okay, let me duplicate that. All right,